The first step for me to a good mixdown is actually in selecting the right sounds. So basically trying to think about the space that every sound that you use in your song is living in, and if there are other sounds that are happening at the same time in the same place. So I always try to be very mindful when working on a new project, when producing, to really sit down and think to myself, what is missing? Instead of just like when I have something started, instead of just adding layer after layer after layer and just kind of throwing paint at the wall, I'm listening to what I have already made and then decide what it needs. So if I have sounds that are in a certain frequency range or that have a certain timbre or a certain energy, I will try not to use a similar sound. Or if I use a similar sound, I try not to use it at the same time. So if you start with that in mind, later on you will not have the problem of, oh my god, things are occupying the same frequency space and you're kind of fighting with an EQ to make it work. Like for me, it comes earlier, like while producing. So for me, that's why I'm saying the production and the mix down kind of go hand in hand. Because if you have elements that already work together well and that kind of make sense in their composition, you don't need to do a lot anymore. But what you do later on actually is still important. It doesn't mean like you don't have to use anything, but you have to use way less and you have less clashes. So basically what I'm trying to say is try to write your music so that each sound has a pocket where it lives and where it makes sense. And if you have things happening at the same time or in the same space, there needs to be a reason for it. I, for example, know, like, good example that just came into my mind is like when you use shakers, you know, there's often this kind of need or this kind of feeling that, okay, if I add another hi-hat, it's going to give some more energy. And that can often be the case, but it can also often be the case that you add another hi-hat and you might think there's more going on now, but in the end it's just like all mushing together. And maybe if you would have just used like a different shaker sample, for example, it would have been the better option. Or you could, like, if it's an offbeat hi-hat, you could maybe shape the shakers in a way that the offbeat is attenuated, if that makes sense. So yeah, just something that I think about a lot when producing. And it's something that I guess I learned. Like, it's a general rule for me that everything I do when making music kind of has to make sense. Like, I have to either have a really good reason to do it, or it's kind of like coming to me kind of like as a inspiration that I can't even say where it comes from. But when I'm really working on something, I usually try not to experiment too much. Like the experimentation phase usually is how I start something and how I get the first idea, but then building upon that, I try to have something in my head already that I want to do next.